let me tell you something. Hopelessly in Love, honey. Faith and Biggie, complete vibe. Welcome to my channel, Blissfully Single Bean. I don't know how you got here, but trust and believe I appreciate every eyeball that is eyeballing this video. 17-year-old, 18-year-old Bean was in her, I was in my bag, honey. Not in a bad way, but a good way. They were profiling Faith and Biggie on Lifetime's Hopelessly in Love. I was all here for it. You know, this generation of music, I just can't connect with it. I feel like I'm stuck in the late 90s, early 2000s in terms of music. So when this show came on, I was like, I have to catch this. Granted, when all of this Faith and Biggie drama were going on, I was about 17, 18 years old. So I was growing up within the midst of all this. We had The Source. We had Vibe magazine. We had Wendy Williams on the radio. Those were the sources of information for us. We couldn't just, get on the blogs and see what was going on. So I lived through it. So I would say 85% of what I did hear, I already knew. I did hear a couple of new elements, but for the most part, I knew what was going on. And I don't care. I will watch a Biggie, Faith, Bad Boy, Puff documentary from here until eternity because that was my era of music. And I just don't get to experience it quite enough. So watching Hopelessly in Love with Faith and Biggie and seeing Puff, Mary J. Blige, Lil' Kim, it brought me back to a time that really made me happy. It was a long documentary. It was about 2 hours. So what I'm going to try and do in this review is just pick out the major points. I don't want to make this a long one, but just to kind of give you a synopsis of what was going on. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Of course, they start with profiling Faith and Biggie's backgrounds. Both same stories, single parent households, mother raising the both of them. Faith's mother was a black woman in an all-white band. She started talking to one of the musicians and she got pregnant by one of the musicians. Now, this is the 70s and Faith's mother had enough sense to know this white man is not going to tell the family that, listen, I'm pregnant by this black woman over here. So she said, listen, you don't have to be responsible for anything. Just go on your merry way. And that he certainly did. So Faith never knew his dad. Faith never knew her dad. Biggie, same story. Dad went wherever. And the mom, Voletta Wallace, raised Biggie. She was very strict with Biggie. And did you guys know that Biggie was a straight A student? That I did not know. Despite that, and despite Voletta's really good efforts in trying to carve out a life that she wanted for Biggie, honey, Mr. Christopher Wallace got one good whiff of that Bed-Stuy Brooklyn hood air, honey, and he was captivated. The streets are calling me. Faith grew up singing in the church. She was born in Florida, but eventually transitioned to Newark, New Jersey, where her cousins lived. Her cousins offered to raise her while the mother finished her education because the mother got pregnant with Faith when she was a senior in high school, so she really needed to finish up. As such, Faith adapted the cousins' lifestyle, which was go to church, holy, sanctified, holy rollers. And, they showed footage of Faith singing her pretty little face off in church. Faith eventually gets a scholarship, full ride academic scholarship to Fordham University. So not only is she musically gifted, but academically gifted as well. Honey, a year into her studies, she met some little old boy. And they started messing around. I love when they use the word messing around. No, y'all were having sex, sexual intercourse, messing around. Messing around gives the implication that it's kissing or, booty grabbing, titty rubbing. That's what messing around. Now, y'all were grown adults having the sex. So they have the sex. Faith ends up pregnant. Faith is on a full academic ride and ends up pregnant at 19 years old. If I were her mother, I would have cracked her skull. Let me tell you something. Getting a full ride to school is the beginning of generational wealth. It is. And I say this because you have placed yourself in an opportunity where you can graduate and not be saddled down by $100,000, by $50,000, by $25,000 worth of student loans. As such, instead of giving a nice chunk of your meager salary to Sally Mae every month, what you can do is put your money into assets, avenues that are revenue generating, that can actually make you money, instead of putting your money into a high ass bill. So for Faith to get pregnant at this point, I was very disappointed. I mean, it's all null and void at this point, and I'm not the child's mama, but I will have to say, let that be one of my sons. Child, it is hell up in Harlem. Faith naturally had to drop out, move back in with her family, and she was broke on welfare. She had nothing popping, nothing going on. So what she started to do is, I guess there was a recording studio in the area, or did she make her way to Manhattan? Either way, she started doing pop-ups at the recording studio because that was her outlet. That was her way out. In doing the pop-ups, she meets I'll Be Sure, has a conversation with him. She lets him know she's a singer. She's musically gifted. There are things she can do. So I'll Be Sure put her to work. I think she was laying down tracks. She was doing some backgrounds. One day, Puff is in the studio. Puff is working on an Usher album, and he needs a female lead on the album. So Puff asks Faith, would you mind? Faith says, not at all, my dear. Faith was like, this was my shot. I knew I was gonna get in there and blow it up. And that she did. By the time she was done, Puff said, here, let me have a conversation. Faith, I'm starting a new record label. Bad boys, come out and play. Yes! Bad Boy Records! And Puffy wanted to know if Faith would be interested in signing. Interested? Hell yeah! That started Faith's relationship with Bad Boy. Later on, they end up at a photo shoot. And this infamous photo shoot is where she met Biggie. She's looking through some photos, because at that time, we had to develop photos. There was film involved. It wasn't about taking a photo on your camera and then scrolling through your cell phone to look. No, there were actually, you had to go to the pharmacy, drop off your film, and it used to take 3 to 5 days to get them drawings back, which drove me and my sister crazy because we called ourselves amateur photographers and just to wait to get the photos back. But I digress. Again, that's what I liked about the documentary. It took me down a path of memory lane. You know what I mean? So she's looking through her photos. Biggie's talking to her. Biggie's like, who's this? She said, this is my daughter, China. Biggie said, oh, I have a daughter too. So they're really connected. Conversation was great. By the time the photo shoot ended, Biggie asked Faith, what are you doing? Faith said, I'm headed back to Brooklyn. Biggie said, oh, word, I'm headed back to Brooklyn. Me and the boys will come with you. And by the boys, I'm assuming he met Junior Mafia. Coincidentally, or fun fact, some of the members from Junior Mafia went to my high school. Shout out to Sarah J. Hale High School. It doesn't exist anymore. They shut it down and made some fancy music school. But I remember when I was a junior in high school, I was a nerd. I'd eat my lunch. I'd be off to the side reading, and there would be a whole table full of guys rhyming. And you know how guys like, oh, whenever bars drop. It's not until later I was like, oh, that was, my friends told me that was Junior Mafia. So anyway, that was a fun fact. Faith drives Biggie to Brooklyn with the guys. Great conversation. Biggie said one thing. They used a sound clip. So one thing about Faith was like Shorty was cute, and the conversations between Shorty was so striking. And Misa, what was her last name? Misa Hilton? Misa is the mother of Puff's oldest son, said that when Biggie met Faith, one thing that he said was, man, I'm going to marry her. He could not stop talking about Faith. And I have to pause here and say, even like most people look at Biggie, oh, he's a hood, he's this, he's that. But say what you want, hood, niggas, whatever. A man will see a woman and know right off the bat if he's going to marry her. Right off the bat. And I say this for all the women who are sleeping with married men, hoping that the man is going to leave his wife to be with you. He looks at you as someone he can sleep with. you're not the wife. You are not the wife. I'm talking to girls who are sleeping with men already in a relationship and hoping the guy would leave his situation to be with you. No, he's already decided, this is the woman I want to be my girlfriend, but I will sleep with you. And that was the dynamic that he had with Kim. And even Lance Rivera, was he a producer or a manager? I think he was Biggie's manager. But he said Biggie and Kim, not Faith, Biggie and Kim were in love way before Faith got into the picture. I mean, Lance, that's all well and good. And granted, I'm pretty sure that was the case. But the gag was, Biggie didn't marry Kim. Biggie married Faith. Kim was passed over. So as deeply as you said they loved each other, I don't think the love matters. I don't. First of all, I don't think it's love. Because if you chose Faith over me, that means you loved her enough to choose her, to give her your last name, to give her half of everything, to share a life, to share assets, to share children with, everything. So to me, that's not love. And if you really think it's love, it really doesn't mean anything, because at the end, you weren't the one he chose. Not. And it shows to Lance's bias. Like all throughout this whole documentary, every time Lance opened his mouth, you can tell, okay, that's team Lil Kim and Biggie. Like Lance was a little bit messy on this documentary, I will not lie. Biggie and Faith got married shortly after. They were only talking for a few months and they bounced up and eloped, which I'm like, okay. And then did you guys know Biggie was 21 years old when he got married? 21? You're 21 and you're at the cusp of this huge rap career. Yeah, Faith. I don't think that was the wisest choice. And trust me, homegirl figured it out later on. As soon as they got married, you know, the crack started to show in, you know, their armor. There was the temptation of him being on tour, and he was on tour a lot. Again, he just blew up, and then he just had all these dope singles dropping. So he found himself in a space where he had to be out of the house a lot. There was a lot of women, there was a lot of temptation, and there was this young woman named Little Kim. Faith said when she met Little Kim, she thought nothing of it because, of course, Big presented this as, this is my homegirl from the neighborhood. Teach Shorty how to dress. Take Shorty under your wing. So that's really the role that Faith thought she was going to assume with Kim, like kind of big sister hang out. Little did she know she's been sleeping. Little did Faith know Little Kim has been sleeping with her husband since day one of their marriage, throughout their marriage, before their marriage. So it was a very tense situation for all involved. Even Lance said he met Faith. He said the way he met Faith, he was going to see Biggie. He says, I see this woman sitting on the bed. And Lance says, who are you? And Faith says, I'm his wife. Lance was like, his wife? Kim is going to kill Biggie. Kill Biggie for what? Kim? He made his choice and it wasn't you. Not only was it you with Faith, it wasn't you with Charlie Baltimore. Kim was a good old time girl. And I wish Kim came to terms with this, and I wish Kim loved herself enough to put a stop to all the nonsense. If you don't pick me, nigga, you don't deserve me. And it was never that energy. Kim was there, sleeping with him time and time again, and would get upset whenever Faith popped up, whenever his wife popped up, whenever people talked about his wife. And C's, who was very objective during this documentary, says, you know, Kim is my homegirl. I love Kim. We've been rocking since day one. But I had to explain it to Kim like, shorty, he picked Faith. He picked Faith as his wife, as his lady. You're just going to have to deal with that. But that was a hard pill for Kim to swallow, especially after when Biggie married Faith. The relationship or the friendship with Kim started to shift. Instead of focusing on the personal aspect of it, Biggie was more and more focusing on Kim as the artist and not as the side piece. I don't even know what to call what Kim was to Biggie. But yeah, it was a very tumultuous time. Faith was talking about One time, Biggie was on the road all the time. One time he came back home. He only spent 2 hours home before he started packing and going away to another tour. Faith was like, you knew you had this flight to catch and you didn't spend the day at home. You only gave us 2 hours, honey. She went apeshit, and rightly so. I would have lost it on him. They had a terrible fight. Faith ended up pulling out a gun and shooting at the dresser, and it was just a mess. Faith talks about the multiple times she fought for Biggie. There was one time where Biggie called and said something dumb. Like, what? Guys, why do you think women are dumb? Like, so all you guys cheating on your girlfriends and cheating on your wives thinking she doesn't know, there's a 95% chance that she knows and she doesn't want to deal with it. But trust and believe, women are not stupid. Stupid. There's a Haitian accent sliding out. Women are not stupid. Biggie calls Faith with some dumbass story about, you know, don't call my room. You know, at the time, no mobile phones. Don't call my room, because if you call my room, I'm letting one of my boys use my room because he has a shorty over. Faith was like, this shit does not even sound... What? Faith's spidey sensors were tingling. She called her friend to watch the baby, hopped on the first thing smoking to Virginia Beach. That's where Big was on some kind of concert. Faith went upstairs, rang the doorbell, put her finger in that peephole. Someone says, who is it? Faith was like, housekeeping. And then someone kind of opened the door. Faith rushed in, grabbed the girl, beat the hell out the girl, and got on the next thing smoking back to Brooklyn, honey. C's came in the room and said, C says, all he sees is this girl on the bed shaking. Because let me tell you something. Faith is not like these not R&B, like these rap chicks talking about they're going to do this, that, and the other. Faith was a song maven with them hands, honey. Faith stayed fighting. Not only did she stay fighting over Biggie, she fought over the baby's father. She got to a point in her book where she said, all this fighting, she said, I got to a point with Biggie where I realized I can't keep fighting the world. I can't. I don't have the energy. I don't have the hands to fight every girl that he sleeps with. So Faith is back in New York. Biggie goes back to New York to chase after Faith and to talk to her. By this time, Faith's feelings are hurt, and she doesn't want to hear any of this nonsense. She moves out of the apartment they're sharing together. They shift over to the whole Tupac and Big situation, just to show you the seeds of this whole East Coast, West Coast beef. Tupac and Biggie started off as great friends. C's was excited because C's and Big love Pac, and to see that Pac and Big connected, C's was like, we love Pac and he's really good friends with Big, like that's what's up. So one day, of course, everybody knows the infamous story. Well, you know, if you don't know, you really shouldn't be watching this video. But Pac shows up at the recording studio. C says, look, Pac, C says, Big, Pac is downstairs. Big is like, oh, word, tell him to come back, come up. By the time he comes up, Pac was shot a couple of times in the head and the groin. That was a serious assault. Big goes to see, Big calls Faith and tells Faith what happens. Pac got shot. And then soon thereafter, Big went to the hospital to go see Pac. But after the incident, you guys of course know, Pac started saying that Junior Mafia set him up. I just don't know how he got from A to Z, but whatever. I remember that was being a whole big thing, and it led up to this argument. Did Big set him up? Did Big not set him up? And it just didn't make any sense to me. What prior beef did you have with Tupac before that would make him set you up, Pac? I just didn't understand that. So that gave the seeds to the beef. And then we segue over to the Source Awards, where, you know, Suge Knight, I always have a hard time pronouncing his name. Suge Knight went to accept an award, and his coochie swear to wear an ass, where he goes, you know, if you want a real record label and you don't want producers hopping around in your videos, come to Death Row. And Puff and Biggie were in the audience like, all right, what is he coming at? He's coming at us. Mafia was like, what you want to do? Like, what's really good? And Puffy's like, no, we are not in our town. We are not, this is not a good look. Puff told him to calm down. Puff, the same night, eventually got on stage and accepted an award. Faith was there too, looking docile and innocent. She didn't say too much. But Puffy said, you know, the producer that Suge Knight was talking about is me, but I'm giving much love to Death Row and all of your accomplishments. So yes, Well played, like a true gentleman. But Faith described the sorcerer was like just the beginning of that turmoil, and you can see the divide. Because later on that night, Snoop came on the stage, and I guess he was booed. And that's when Snoop was like, "You ain't got no love for the cuz," you know? And Faith said that whole night was just so tense and thick. Divide is going on with this whole East Coast, West Coast nonsense. So they segued into Faith Evans and that whole Tupac thing. And years ago, when Tupac alleged that he slept with Faith, I never believed it. It sounded asinine to me. How convenient. You have beef with Biggie and you end up in bed with his wife, and then she gives you an opportunity to rap about it. That sounded so dumb. But thankfully, Faith did put everything into context, and she explains that she flew out to, by this time, she was ducking Bad Boy. She didn't want to do Bad Boy then. She was ducking Puff. But she was offered work out in L.A. She flew out to L.A. She did her work that day, went to a club, and she ended up seeing Pac and Tretch from Naughty by Nature at the club. They exchanged conversation. Pac said, "I think you're really dope. I want to work with you." So they exchanged phone numbers. And I'm like, Faith said she didn't think anything of it because whatever happened 9 months ago. She didn't think there was still ill feelings. But Faith, still too close for comfort. Like, we got to think, and we have to practice a little bit wisdom in these situations, because had it been me, we can make pleasant conversation at the club, but that's where it stops. I'm not going to work with you. I'm not exchanging phone numbers. It's really not that type of party. You kind of have to think ahead, and I don't think Faith was thinking ahead. Faith calls her ex-manager Cheryl, and her manager at the time, Cheryl, now it's the ex-manager, and she called Big. Big says he didn't have a problem with me working with Pac. Still, Faith, not very smart. Pac eventually does call Faith and offers her $25,000 to lay a hook, to write a hook and sing a hook. And Faith is like, "Oh, bet, I got this." So Pac says, "I'm going to send a car to pick you up." And when the day got here, Pac did not send a car. Pac came to pick her up personally in a drop-top convertible. So this is going from professional to you tricked me into a date? Really, Pac? And I believe every word that Faith is saying because it makes so much sense. Pac picks her up, drives her to a recording studio. She gets in the recording studio and then she sees Suge Knight. She sees Corrupt, West Coast rapper. And then she's looking around. Something is not right. Holy shit. Faith, Bad Boy, East Coast Faith, is finding herself on the West Coast in the Death Row Record Studios. Bitch. Like, are you serious? Now, 2 + 2 = 4. And Faith is finally seeing the danger of this situation. She says she feels so uneasy. Suge Knight did introduce himself to her. She said she laid that track, she wrote that track, laid it down, honey, in an hour and a half, tops. And she was like, "Let me get out of here." So she approaches Tupac and, says, "All right, I'm done. Where's my money?" Pac says, "I can pay you 2 ways. You can come back to my hotel with me and I can get the $25,000 check from my business manager, or I can mail your check," or something like that. And Pac said, Faith said, the way the energy was, she was like, "You know what? Let me get my check now." And she goes up to his hotel room and there's all these guys there. And Pac's swagger starts to change. Instead of talking business and "Where's my money, man?" "Oh, these New York guys set me up, A, B, and C." At this point, Faith was like, "Man, please have my check." And Tupac says, "You've got to suck my dick to get your check." Very classy, Pac. Oh, what a gentleman. So Faith at that moment realizes she was a pawn in this whole Biggie Tupac nonsense. She was caught in the middle, and it was get back. It was certainly get back for Tupac. Faith cried a little bit and she went back home feeling humiliated and with no check. she was in shock. And not only did this happen, she worked and had, she did all this work and had nothing to show for it. Now she's got to deal with Biggie because Biggie was mad. Biggie showed up. There was a big confrontation that ensued. Biggie took the child, banging her up against dresses. Cheryl runs upstairs to try and stop the commotion. But Cheryl said Biggie is a huge man. There was no way that Biggie could get him off of Faith. And Lance interjected in a confessional. Oh, with this whole Tupac and Biggie thing, did anyone stop to think how Biggie felt? How Biggie felt inside of Kim's puss? How Biggie felt with a whole ass girlfriend? Yeah, Biggie was separated with Faith and flew to Philly on some concert, came back with Charlie Baltimore as a whole ass girlfriend. Faith was like, okay, we've been separated, but you're out dating. Biggie, rest in peace, and I will always love your music. To me, there will never be a rapper like Biggie. That's number one in my heart. But nigga was a messy ass, disrespectful, mean, and cruel nigga. He treated Faith like shit. Absolute shit. You guys are separated and you have a whole girlfriend. You're still messing with Kim. You're still sleeping with all these groupies. And Lance, you want to know how Big felt about the situation? He shouldn't feel no way about the situation. Next. They cleared that up. And a few months later, Big calls Faith randomly to go to New Orleans. And Faith said she was excited that she got a call from him. And I liked her vulnerability because she wasn't trying to be tough. No, she was excited that she got this call from Big to go to New Orleans, and she wanted to go. And one of the messy producers, they must have asked about the other women in Big's life, and Faith was like, yeah, I really don't care. I really don't care anything about that. I'm his wife. So yeah, that part. She says she went. She hung out with the guys. It was so much fun. Good food, eating, good sex. Honey, she went, came right on back home. 3 weeks later, she ended up pregnant with Biggie's baby. Honey child. She was excited. She was excited, especially when she found out that the child was his son. Biggie's mother made Biggie get on the phone and call Charlie Baltimore and tell Charlie Baltimore that Faith is pregnant. Naturally, Charlie Baltimore is shocked. She's in a relationship with Big. How'd you get Faith pregnant? But I like the way Charlie Baltimore handled the situation. She didn't get bucked. She picked up the phone and had a grown-ass woman conversation with Faith. Faith said when she saw that it was Charlie Baltimore that was calling, Faith was absolutely shocked. They didn't say what they talked about, but I got the sense it was grown women conversation. I got the sense that Faith didn't have that rah-rah dynamic that she had with Kim. She didn't have with Charlie Baltimore. And that's one thing. I've always been ambivalent about Charlie Baltimore as a person. As a rapper, I remember when she came out, and I was like, yeah, there was something about her. I'm like, I personally, she wasn't Lil' Kim. She wasn't Foxy Brown. She wasn't one of those female lyricists that could really spit to me. She didn't have great flow. She kind of felt like an ABC rapper. But I will say, watching her come back into the fold with growing up hip hop, New York, I like her swagger. She has a very laid back swagger. She's not messy. She's not, confrontational. So I will say, hearing that she picked up the phone to call Faith to have a mature conversation, that sounded right. But Faith, oh my God, Faith is 2 or 3 months pregnant with Biggie's child. Faith gets a phone call. Hello? Yo, Faith, Kim is at the studio. Faith was like, bet, I'm coming. I'm coming. Faith rolls up to the studio, gut full of Christopher Wallace, baby. Faith said, I must have caught Kim off guard because Kim was writing lyrics or something like that. She jumped on Kim. Stevie was there at the time. Stevie says he grabbed Faith because he knew Shorty was pregnant. Stevie was like, to be fighting over Big when you're pregnant must have been some kind of love. I'm not sure I would call that love. A lack of wisdom certainly will. So Faith beat the hell out of Kim, grabbed Kim's wig, and kept the wig at the house for several months. Lord have mercy. And that wasn't the last time she jumped on Kim too. I think that there was another situation where Big was in his house in Teaneck. By this time, the baby, I believe, was already born. And Biggie wanted to be more of a family man, so he was talking more of that family stuff. So Faith was under the impression that he might want to get everything together and come back with her and be a family with Faith, CJ Senior, Christopher Senior, and him. She had the impression they were going to get back together, but she wasn't sure. She drove back. She drove by his Teaneck house to get some clarity, honey. And this was in the book too, honey. She got there. Big was in bed with another woman. When she pulled up the covers, she saw it was Kim. Faith did not have one or two words. Beat the hell out of Kim again, because of course Kim is a small woman. Kim, you could talk all that rah-rah nonsense, but flick, So they ended up breaking the fight. Kim went home, but honey, before she went home, she sure did scratch the hell up out of Faith's Range Rover. But again, Faith got to a point where she, I can't keep doing this nonsense. I really can't. At that point, she realized, I can't keep fighting for this relationship. Big has to step up and fight for this relationship. Faith was done. We get to the sad part of it. This is always the unfortunate part. We get to Biggie flying out to the Soul Train Music Award in LA. Misa, the mother of Puffy's oldest son, said she was uneasy about Puffy going to LA. But Puffy said, you know what, it's all good, it's all love, LA is calm. And somebody, I forgot who it is in the documentary, said they misread the vibe of LA. They thought LA was calm. Puffy thought LA was safe. But what it really was is the city was quiet, mourning the death of Tupac, their rap god. So now the West Coast is feeling some kind of way because Pac is not here anymore. And the East Coast, we have our rap god. Biggie is here, alive and well. So for you to be in that environment, wrong time. I don't know how Puff and Big thought this would be a good moment to be out there. And C's put it in context. C said, he wanted to show love for LA. So he wanted to go out there and show there's no problem. I ain't got beef. Sorry, I don't have any kind of beef with anyone. It is all love. Wrong choice. They do the Soul Train Music Awards. There was an after party. Faith said her and Big showed up at the same party. They're stealing glances at each other. They want to talk to each other, but it's the immaturity and pride that won't let them have a conversation. And I'm pretty sure in, the events ahead, she probably regretted that choice. She probably wished, and she said that, she wished she had a conversation with him that night. She wished she rode to the party with him that night. She was besides herself. They shut down that party, I think occupancy or whatever, and they were making their way to a next party. So Puffy got into a truck, one truck ahead. Puffy got into the first truck, which was ahead of Biggie's truck. Biggie was in the back with C's and the rest of Junior Mafia. I found it very interesting. Puffy took the yellow light. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theory, but I found it very interesting that Puffy made sure he didn't get stopped at that particular light. But unfortunately, Big got stuck at that light. A car drives up behind them and starts spraying bullets into the car. And of course, Big is hit multiple times. You hear C's on the phone saying, "There's a man shot in my car now." C says he looked over at Biggie, and Biggie didn't even say anything. Biggie's eyes were just open like, they got me. They really got me. Faith gets a phone call that Biggie was shot and he's in a hospital. She runs down to the hospital and she says, when I went up there, I was under the impression that I get to kiss him, I get to hold him. And the doctor says that Biggie was gone, man. And then they in great editing, they pan over to everyone at that moment when they realized they lost Big. And that was just the saddest thing. Faith said she blacked out. She just started yelling. She started taking off her rings, her jewelry, and just throwing it because she couldn't believe that they'd lost him. Damn. It was a sad story. They got into the funeral and, the infamous, that picture of Kim crying. I'm not trying to downplay her grief because her and Biggie were, they did have a love. Biggie was in love with her, but I'm just so annoyed at her lack of self-esteem in this whole situation. Mary walked by Faith and didn't even say hello. And they were friends. They were friends. Before then, they were friends. They used to hang out. And, you know, Mary clearly chose a side. Charlie Baltimore was also at the funeral. She was quiet, reflective to herself. She was just in shock. It was just really sad. But they did end the documentary. Faith was singing in the church, and then she walked out and took Stevie J by the hand. So they kind of profiled her romance with Stevie J. And I will say, when they got together, I was like, random. But just knowing the whole story and the whole background, I would think her and Stevie are a natural fit. And they look really comfortable together. They really do. And Faith looks like she's in a space right now in her life where she has peace. Yes. That was a great documentary. I was so excited about it. Next week, they're about to have Anna Nicole Smith and Larry Burkhead, I think his last name was. I think I will be watching that and I will be reviewing it. Anna Nicole Smith was a hot ass mess. That should be fun. If you like my video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I do resumes. Hit me up. My information is in the description box. Let me write your resume. Let me update your resume. Let me get you out there so you can get calls back. All right? Check out my blog, blissfullySingleBean.com. I recently put up a blog post about 15 New Year's resolutions that you could easily accomplish. So go ahead and check it out. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Every subscriber, every subby, every eyeball in this video. Thank you guys. You guys have an amazing Saturday. I'm about to put on Faith's album myself while I edit this video. Take care, guys. Peace.